I try to give people a little insight on Dutch behavior based on my own experience, and I'd like to give the Dutch a few suggestions on how to behave in public. Last summer, I went to Venice with my boyfriend. Let's try a camping site, we said. Just for once, can't be that bad. And indeed, it was fine, up to a certain point. In the restaurant, we met this great British guy. While talking, the people around us were starting to annoy us. They were talking far too loudly and were being insolent to the staff. Suddenly, we realized we had been surrounded. The people around us were all Dutch. Do you know what the British guy said? Oh dear, well, just keep on speaking English and maybe people won't notice you're Dutch too. Obviously, the Dutch are not the only ones with bad behavior. But as you all know, the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. And if I would discuss the flaws of all nations existing, I would probably be disqualified for talking for an hour or two. And actually, Holland is quite a pleasant country to live in. All I ask from the Dutch is to adjust themselves a little.
Did you notice the Scottish football fans outside? It doesn't seem to be a very Dutch thing at all.
Well, I think all nations tend to club together and form a little group, and we do it when we're abroad. We will look at camping sites. We all club together in one little group, and yeah, that's what they're doing, and I think all nations tend to do that.
My particular strong points, I think that would be my articulation and I think my contact with the audience. I think they get to feel me. The biggest obstacle that is on the rocky road of a teenager growing up is what is called peer pressure. This is the pressure that teenagers are exposed to by their fellow youth, mainly the ones closest to them, also called peers. The consequences of this peer pressure are that teenagers start picking up negative habits or start participating in activities they would have normally never done. Would you want to be the only one not smoking? Or would you want to be the only one not bullying? Would you want to be the only one not partying and drinking all of your brain cells down the drain? Unfortunately, there are too few who actually would. And this is such a shame, I can't state it often enough. Because standing out does not necessarily involve acting extraordinarily, or dressing differently from everyone around you, or even speaking really loud. These things will set you apart, but not for long. People get used to unusual behavior much faster than one would think, and after that, the odd one out is easily forgotten.
My apologies for my nasty question.
Oh God.
You're talking about standing out. How
Yes.
do you think you stand out in comparison to your competitors?
How do I think I stand out?
Oh, Mr. Bishop. Yes.
Well, I myself feel I stand out because of my... Yeah, I don't want to be arrogant. Well, there is one thing I can name. I am a singer in a band, so I stand out in the ability to sing.
Well, standing in front of an audience is an exhilarating experience. Each time it's different and it's exciting, and each time the crowd is also different, so I'm very interested to see how they'll react to me.
There was a time when a school uniform was something to be proud of. Proud as tigers to wear the same stripes. I dare say that today it would cause a riot to even suggest such a thing as bringing back school uniforms. Young people cherish too much the idea that we have the freedom to decide what we're going to wear each day. We believe it's a form of self-expression. Uniform, that's certainly no way to speak to an individual. So it's interesting to see what happened once the uniforms came off. That's when the jeans came on. With our refusal to wear uniforms, we've turned into an army of denim-clad adolescents. Luckily, in our consumer society, the market has found itself more than willing to cater to our false sense of individuality. In our determination to be different, to stand out, it seems we have created a mass-produced individual, massively wanting to be different, paradoxically becoming the same. We have individuality at our disposal. The ability to express ourselves lies within us, after all. Fear of not fitting in may keep us in similar clothes and accessories, but true self-expression lies within the thoughts and desires that we have. It lies within the lives that we lead and the relationships we build with other individuals. All that rests is the courage to embrace it. We must stop claiming to be individuals and start becoming individuals. After all, actions speak louder than words.
And do you think this has to do with the technological innovations coming towards us in somehow that we should be more open-minded to be more individual towards these innovations?
Yes, actually you have a very good point. Before, everyone used to make their own clothes and many of their own accessories, so maybe now because of the ease of mass production, people have become more lazy and taking mass products. But with that ease, you don't have to concentrate on those things anymore. For example, with the school uniform, you can stop thinking about what you're going to wear the next day and start thinking about the lessons you should have learned.
So this rounds up the speakers competition, but we still have 3 competitors left in the writing competition. And to that end, I would once again like to invite Ingrid de Beer and Lucy Hawkins here on stage to take over.
What intrigues me about the Olympics is that the Chinese really try to show off their ability to be great and a really powerful nation, but instead of just really messed up and really arrogant about their wealth and power.
He says we may have had one of the best Olympics ever, but at what price? And then he refers to the Beijing people. It made life worse for them having the Olympics in their town.
He had some lovely examples. They were serious and humorous, and that was quite engaging in the essay too.
It was, and the one that I thought of, I really had to laugh there. You may know that the Chinese people have difficulty in pronouncing the L and the R, and restaurants were forbidden to have French flies on their menu. Well, a more serious example then, it was that athletics coaches were forced to sign a contract that their athletes would win a medal. And if they couldn't win a medal, then they would be punished, which is quite serious, of course.
And he brings in philosophy. We see some Chinese philosophers at the beginning of the essay and at the end as well.
I think Oscar Wilde should have been born just about 30 years later, because he would have been really, really, really successful with the picture of Dorian Gray. I think it's sad that he was locked up and everything.
She talks about Oscar Wilde in her clip, and that's how she starts her essay, with a very famous quote from him. "The only thing in the world worse than being talked about is not being talked about." How does she go on from there, Ingrid, in her essay?
Well, she thinks that, she asks the reader whether you have more success if you stand out. She doesn't think so. It's through fitting in, actually, that doing what you're good at, that you stand out. And indeed, she mentions Oscar Wilde, but also Abraham Lincoln, who is the 16th President of the United States, who was just an ordinary pupil, a common boy. And he even made it to a US president. And he was the one who abolished slavery.
Yeah, in her intro, Denise also asks, is the ladder of success easier to climb when you stand out? Does she give us a conclusion to that question?
Yes, she has some advice for the road to success. Use your talents. That's what she says in her last sentence.